My name is Patrick Holcomb. I'm the author of Where the Seams Meet. I'm also a retired Marine, and I am so excited to be on this episode of Gym on Base.
The Gym on Base show has teamed up with my new friends at Old Hillside Bourbon Company. I got two of my favorite bottles here, straight bourbon whiskey and the straight rye whiskey. So whenever you want to get on base with that authentic Kentucky bourbon taste, make sure you visit oldhillsidebourboncompany.com, their social media, Old Hillside CO, or pick up a bottle at Bevmo and Total Wine. Old Hillside Bourbon Company. They'll always get you on base. Welcome back to another episode of the Gym on Base show. For today's very special guest, we have an avid sports fan who turned his passion for baseball into becoming a published author. He just published his first book entitled Where the Seams Meet, and also spent 20 years as a U.S. Marine. Please welcome the great Patrick Holcomb. Patrick, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be on the show today and happy to not only talk a little bit about the book, but talk sports too. You know, I've been doing some of these interviews for the past few weeks here, and a lot of times it's just talking about writing and talking about the book, but I love sports and looking forward to a good conversation with you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited to have you on. And like you said, we can talk some sports, talk about the book too. So we're kind of getting the best of both worlds right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I know you have a lot going on. You've been busy, like you said, doing interviews and doing book signings I saw recently.
Yes,
And yeah,
yes.
you're doing podcast interviews like this. And I think
Mhm.
today's kind of a busy day for you too. You got the San Diego Writers Conference and you're kind of doing this in between, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was just down there this morning. It's on Coronado, and I was part of a panel talking about the road to publication. So, got to give aspiring authors some tips, a little information about how to go about getting their books out into the world. And after we're done here, I'm going to head right back down there.
And another kind of interesting thing today was not only do you have that going on, but you got people trying to jump off bridges and stuff. So jamming up the traffic.
Yes. So, I have wonderful news. That person did not complete the act.
Okay,
They
good.
were safely taken off of the Coronado Bridge, and they will live to see another day, which I think we're all thankful for. And it didn't disrupt the festival too much. So, yeah, that's good news all around.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to have a little stage fright.
Yeah, right.
Well, I know you're in San Diego, but
Yes.
this book that you've come out with called Where the Seams Meet, I've noticed you're a Giants fan though. So did you grow up in the Bay Area, or how did that kind of work?
Yeah. So I was born in the Bay Area. First place I lived was Pleasant Hill,
Mm,
and we moved around a lot when I was a kid. So my dad was in the insurance business. He was a manager for AAA. And every time he would get promoted, it would mean that we were moving to a new town, a new city, and he would have a new office. And it led to a lot of moves when I was a kid. But by fourth grade, we landed in Santa Rosa. And that's where I stayed through high school. So graduated from Pioneer High.
mm.
And then after high school graduation, it was straight into the Marine Corps.
It almost sounds like you were a military brat, bouncing around. So it kind of worked, right?
It definitely prepared me. Yeah, it gave me that mindset to be adaptable and be ready to move, go somewhere new, and start a new life.
Well, obviously, this book that's come out is sports related and based. So, who were your favorite teams and maybe some of your favorite players growing up?
So I was a huge baseball fan growing up, and for me, it was the Giants. And I was a big Will Clark fan
There you go.
during my younger years, and when Will left, then it became all about Barry. Matt Williams as well. He was one of my favorites. So yeah, I have a strong fanhood for the Giants. Still follow them today. This season's been a little rough so far, but I'm actually optimistic. I think this team has some good times ahead of it.
Yeah, you're right about that. And it's got to be pretty neat for you then, too, because I've had Will Clark and Matt Williams on the show, been lucky enough. And it's pretty cool that they're so involved with the Giants again. So it's got to be fun for
Yeah,
you to.
it's incredible. I was so happy to see Matt Williams come back as a coach. And I was there when the Giants played the Padres
Mm,
on the 29th. It was the day that my book opened. I was like, where is a better place for me to celebrate this than at the ballpark? And seeing Matt Williams there as a third base coach, it was incredible to see him back in the uniform. So great.
and as you know, too, like back in the uniform, he even has the same number. So it's very nostalgic.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. And I was watching him. What I thought was really cool is that even though he was not on the field, he was just off the field. He would sit there and he would watch the pitcher,
Mm.
and instinctively, as the pitcher went to deliver, he would settle back into a crouch as if he were still man in third base. Like some things are just years, and I think for Maddie, that's one of them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And he's so, in a good way, intense. So I think it's a perfect role for him
Oh
to
yeah,
be a
yeah,
coach,
very
obviously.
intense. Hmm.
Did you get to meet any of your favorite players growing up, or were you like an autograph guy as a kid, or?
No, I really didn't. I think my most prized autograph was Barry Bonds,
Mm.
and I got to tell you, that ball was stolen from me.
Uh, what
Yeah,
happened?
so during my early years in the Marine Corps, I was living in the barracks, and those rooms aren't always super secure. And you'd like to think that U.S. Marines don't steal, but sometimes they do. And yeah, somebody took off with that baseball.
Oh
So I hope
man.
it found a good home wherever it is, and it's being enjoyed by somebody, but it's not me anymore.
Well, I got to ask, any Giants fan knows that Barry Bonds was a really hard autograph to get. So what's the story behind how you got it?
So it was actually purchased. And
Mm,
I
okay.
think with Barry, that's kind of the only way. My
Yeah.
dad gave it to me as a Christmas present one year,
Awesome.
and yeah, I treasured it as long as I had it, but long gone now.
Well, did you have any favorite jerseys growing up? Anything that you like to wear as a fan?
Oh, I don't think I had any jerseys, but I was a hat guy growing
Mm.
up. So I was always wearing, for many years, turned backwards and then went forward again at some point. But yeah, always rocking a Giants hat.
And when it comes to like sports memories growing up a Giants fan, do you have any fond memories of maybe like a first game you attended or any big games that you just went to as a fan over the
You
years?
know, the first game I think is always memorable for
Mm.
baseball fans. There's something about that moment when you walk out of the tunnel and you see the field for the first time. I mean, it's one thing to play Little League and see a smaller version of that. It's another thing to watch it on TV. But when you actually come out of the tunnel and you see that broad expanse and you see that beautiful green grass and the brown dirt field, it's special. And my first game was 1989. It was against the Mets at Candlestick. I remember Darryl Strawberry getting booed by the Giants fans, and it was a remarkable experience and something that's stuck with me ever since.
That's a good story. And looking like you have a very professional look, but you sneak in the Giants photo behind you at the field, which is great.
That's the first game of the 2010 World Series, and you can actually see Tim Lincecum on the mound there.
Awesome. Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
you mentioned Lincecum, great pitcher, probably my favorite Giant all time. And you said you were an outfielder as a little leaguer. So is your story
First
some?
base, too.
Oh, first base. Okay. Were you a
Yeah,
good
first base.
player? Because I was a terrible player. I'm a better fan than athlete.
Mhm.
I always say.
I think we have something in common there. I was a fairly average player, and my fanhood definitely exceeded my unremarkable talent. No doubt about it.
And I know your other interests include running and climbing, right? So it's kind of interesting because I know when it came to me being a quote unquote athlete, I kind of liked doing solo stuff because it would just seem to work better, compared to little league and baseball and stuff. I'm just a better fan.
Yeah, for me, I think I found my calling with endurance sports.
Mm.
I knew that I had some running ability when I was younger, and certainly you do some running in the Marine Corps. But I ran my first marathon when I was 29, almost 30,
Wow,
and realized that I have some talent for that.
nice. Now, do you put in the headphones or do you kind of go all natural or?
No headphones,
Wow.
almost zero. Yeah, and people think that's crazy. And I kind of see the perspective. I see where they're coming from. But for me, running is not just about the physical component, it's also about the mental component.
Mm.
And I found that running, especially running long miles, it gave me so much time to work through things and just think through, stuff at work, stuff at home. I mean, from a mental health perspective, it was just amazing for me.
Do you know Dean Karnazes at all, the ultra marathon runner? I've had him
Yes.
on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was
Oh, that was
awesome.
super cool.
And I
Yeah.
love his books. He makes running a marathon sound so easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't he?
It sounds like, do you get some of your better ideas, maybe like creative ideas for the book when you're running or?
It's funny. So originally, before I wrote this book, my plan was not to spend the first few months of my military retirement writing. My plan was to finish something that I called the 7 and 7. So my goal was to run a marathon on every continent and to climb the highest peak on every continent. And I
Wow.
had been working on this for years. I had finished all the marathons and I was halfway done with the mountains, but some of these take a long time. So the plan was to retire from the Marine Corps and go knock out the rest of the mountains. Unfortunately, my body just kind of broke down.
Mm,
And I ended up getting hip surgery the month after I retired from the Marine Corps.
wow.
And I had some time to think about it. So I decided, well, if I'm ever going to pursue this book, now is the time to do it. But the impact was that I started writing and I wasn't able to go out and run. And a lot of my best ideas do come when I'm running.
Hmm.
So it hindered me a little bit when I was writing the first draft, but the hip healed. I started running again. The ideas started coming and knocked out that first draft in about 6 months.
Wow. Well, are you still up with the 7 and 7, or because we got to get a documentary film crew on you then?
Yeah, there were some discussions about that along the way. Right now, with the book just being released, it's on hold,
Yeah.
and I don't know if I'm going to pick it up again. I really don't. My aspirations have changed a little bit. It's also so physically demanding. It really is. My body feels wonderful right now because I'm
Hmm.
still very active, but I'm not beating myself up in the same way that I was for the years that I was pursuing that. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, you can be Alex Cobb's. You can give him some tips on rehab, as you know he had the hip surgery too.
Yeah, yeah, and I hope he recovers well from it.
Well, you are a U.S. Marine, and you did it for 20 years, right? So, is that
Years,
what
yeah.
is that why you're in San Diego now? Did you kind of settle down after being, I imagine,
Yeah.
around there?
So I started in San Diego and I finished in San Diego.
Wow.
I did 4 years in Hawaii, followed by 3 years in Okinawa. So I was
Wow.
away from the States for a while, at least from the continental United States. And then got to come back to San Diego in 2016 and put down roots here. And,
Mm.
I'm not sure if you spent a lot of time in San Diego, but it's a wonderful place and it feels like home now.
Yeah, I love going down to see some Giants Padres games. I don't know anyone who doesn't like Petco, so you know.
No, no, it's an amazing ballpark, and it
Yeah.
changed that downtown so much. I
Mm.
remember before Petco came around, that place was wasn't necessarily somewhere you would want to be late at night. But now it's totally different, such a new environment, and I credit the Padres for bringing that to the city.
Well, it made me wonder. You spoke about being all over the world basically as a Marine. So when the Giants were on their big World Series runs in 2010, 12, and 14, I imagine were you watching from somewhere maybe a little exotic?
Yes. So 2010 was amazing. I was in Hawaii, but I was on the Big Island for a training exercise. I was with
Mm.
an artillery battalion at the time, and we were on the Big Island and we were firing artillery, and I was able to sneak away for the deciding game. And it
Awesome.
was the only game that I actually got to watch start to finish, but people understood.
Yeah.
So I got to have that moment, and it was special. I didn't get to watch as much of the run leading up to it as I would have liked, but I was there for the big moment.
Awesome. Well, when you were like growing up, did you kind of have like always a natural knack for writing or maybe just creative stuff growing up? And then you kind of put it together as an adult, or how did that kind of work?
Yeah, I did a lot of professional writing in the Marine Corps,
Mm.
and I think that prepared me well. Growing up, I was an avid reader, and I read a lot of fiction, but I never tried my hand at writing fiction until I sat down to write this book.
Wow.
And it was a steep learning curve. It's if writing a novel was easy, everyone would do it. The
Mm.
number that I've heard is that 90% of people who set out to write a novel never even finish their first draft.
Wow.
So even writing that first draft felt like a huge accomplishment, but it's a long road from there. But yeah, as a kid, I think I had a knack for writing, but I've always kind of thought of myself as a storyteller too, and that's what you're doing is you're telling a story through words, and over time and multiple drafts, hopefully you find the right words to tell that entire story, and I think I did along the way.
Yeah, were you nervous at all or kind of scared to take the leap to write? Like maybe worried about what other people would think or
100%. There is a lot of fear that you have to get past and get over. We were chatting about your road and how you started this show and some of your fears. And,
Mhm.
I think we have a similar perspective there.
Mm.
And putting yourself out there in a way that at least I never had before. There's a certain vulnerability to it. And Marines are a tough crowd
Yeah.
and I've definitely taken some grief for some friends already. They've reached out, made some comments here and there, all in good fun. But yeah, I had to get over those sensitivities and just be willing to say, hey, I'm proud of this book. I'm proud of what I did and put it out there.
Nice. Well, how long from start to finish? How long did it take you to make it happen?
To actually write the book took about 11 months. And then, it's a lengthy road to find a publisher and to get the book ready to put out. So all told, it was a little over 2.5 years.
Wow.
But that's
And
actually pretty fast. A lot of people toil on first books in particular for a decade, so I feel thankful that it went as quickly as it did. And, I really I wanted to make this happen in 2024 because the 2014 World Series is incorporated into the plot. And I wanted to do it on the 10th anniversary,
Mm.
not just as a writer, but as a fan. That felt meaningful to me.
Yeah, that is pretty special. I just put that together. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's very cool.
And when you wrote the book, or in the middle of it, or maybe at the end, exactly did you have the title? Because it's such a great title. How did you come up with that?
Yeah, so the title is Where the Seams Meet. And that was not my original title. And I got some feedback. So some of the people who got an early look at the book, they were like, "Yeah, the book is great. It's such a well-written piece, but your title sucks." They were brutally honest with me, and I'm glad they were, because I went back to the drawing board and I came
Mm.
up with something new. And the feedback on that title is really good. The cover turned out really well too. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that I have people in my life who are honest with me and tell me when something's great, but tell me when something sucks too.
Well, I was hoping if you can give me a little summary about what the book is about, because I know it's based in the 1970s in San Francisco, and it kind of is about a father raising a son and just kind of with life's curveballs, right?
Well, actually, so the timeline I think is a great place to start. It's what I call a multi-generational
Mm.
story of father sons in baseball. So it begins back in the 1950s, and the plot actually extends for 60 years. And I'm sure you're wondering, like, oh, wow, how did you achieve that? It's an interesting concept and construct. So I tell the story in two parts. And the first part is told from Frank's perspective, Frank Romano. And it starts when he's about 5 years old and goes to his mid 30s. And each chapter in the book tells the story of one pivotal day in the lives of Frank and his son Danny. So after we spend the first half of the book getting to know Frank, who is first a childhood baseball player and then later a firefighter, we pivot in point of view to Danny and we start telling Danny stories through his eyes.
Mm.
And we start when he's about 11 and go through his mid 30s as well. And again, each chapter tells the story of one day, and there are years in between some of these chapters. So all told, we cover about 60 years, and we cover Danny's story as a baseball player as well. And I want to avoid spoilers, but I'll tell you, if you're a Giants fan or just a baseball fan, you'll really enjoy his ride.
And it made me think too, when you write about a father and son, do you have to almost maybe not be careful, but like, do people automatically assume, oh, that's about you and your dad?
A lot of people have made that assumption. I've definitely fielded that question. And, there is conflict between this father and son. I will say that this is not representative of my relationship with my dad. But it's hard to kind of get away from that point though, because when I set out to write this book, I intentionally incorporated elements of his life, the fact that he was born and raised in San Francisco,
Mm.
and my life with some of the places that I've been, Santa Rosa, San Diego, others that I won't mention because of spoilers.
Mm.
But I did intentionally incorporate some of our lives into this book. But no, I have a wonderful relationship with my dad, and the conflict that you read about in the book is not representative of that relationship.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to read the book. And in terms of, there's a little bit of, we were getting the laptop set up and everything. Was that your wife that I saw? Like, are you married? Do you have kids or
That
anything?
is my girlfriend. Yeah, her
Okay.
name is Danielle. Yeah, she is my technical support.
Awesome. And I imagine too, when you're writing a book, it's obviously not just about you, right? I imagine you need a good support group. So was there any mentors or just family and friends that kind of motivated you along the way?
Oh, certainly. So one of the first things I did when I started writing was search out a writing coach because, like I said, I'd written professionally before, and I felt confident in my abilities as a writer, but writing fiction was brand new. So I worked with a writing coach. Her name was Nicole. She was wonderful. She actually stuck with me through the second draft, which normally wasn't part of her process.
Hmm.
She saw a lot of potential in the book early on, and I think she was invested because of that. And then, yeah, certainly friends and mentors along the way that really helped me figure my way through this thing. As much as I built a group and community through my running and my climbing, I did with writing too. And it's opened so many new doors to me. It's been incredible.
Well, that's great. And I know you talked about how the book came out the same days when the Giants were playing the Padres. And I saw some pictures just through social media randomly, like in a Giants group on Facebook. It might have been you, but it was definitely someone holding the book at Petco Park. So it made me
Yes.
wonder. Was it emotional to kind of finally get that physical copy in your hands and see it in person?
Oh, it totally was. The first time I held the book, it was incredible because you never think about what 2+ years of work feels like in your hands. But I had this tangible thing for the first time, and it was almost overwhelming, to come to that moment after all of the hard work that went into it. And it's a rewarding thing. It really is. And the book was just released last week, but already the response has been incredible. People are really enjoying it. I'm starting to see the Giants fan base get really engaged and excited about it, which is so cool for me because I'm giving back. I'm giving back to a fan base that I've been a part of for a long time, and that's rewarding. It really
Yeah.
is.
Well, the book we've been speaking about, we've mentioned Where the Seams Meet. Where can people pick it up? I saw Amazon, but is there like a certain website you prefer people to pick it up from if they can?
You can get it wherever you want. Amazon is
Okay.
great. Barnes and Noble is great. I do have an author website. It's authorpatrickholcomb.com. If you're interested in a signed copy, you can go there. And that's a great place to actually get a personalized signed copy of the book. But yeah, anywhere books are distributed, you can find it.
Okay. Awesome. I'll make sure to put that link specifically in the episode bio so people can check it out. And I know you kind of have a busy day, so we just did the interview. Are you going back to the conference now, or?
I am going to head back down there and have a great day talking books.
Awesome. Well, Patrick, it's nice to meet you. Hopefully, one of these days we can meet up at a Giants game.
Yeah, that would be incredible. I'm going to be up there soon within the next few months, so I'll look you up.
Cool. Perfect. All right. Well, Patrick, thanks for coming on the show and excited to read the book.
Yeah, Ryan, thank you so much. My pleasure.